Big appearance from President Trump. He is back in the hot seat, back on Capitol Hill. What do you know? Big story.
Donald Trump is going to be on Capitol Hill. There's a live look outside Republican headquarters just off the Capitol building there. He's in D.C. for the first time since he left the White House. He'll talk unity with House Republicans first, then he'll talk about unity with Senate Republicans. Can he get everyone on the same page? And he might make a comment as he goes inside. So we're going to watch this camera and bring that to you.
Anyway, Donald Trump making the return to Capitol Hill today, and he got a very warm reception. Republicans coming fresh off their baseball win. At least they're winning at something, right? Ladies and gentlemen, they won the baseball game last night. And then they were there greeting Donald Trump today. They gave him some birthday wishes. His birthday, by the way, is tomorrow. So they sang happy birthday. All was hunky-dory, except, of course, for, the routine protesters outside. I believe Matt Gaetz got hit with a few. Let's watch him walking in.
Winning. Bootlicker. Bootlickers. Don't drink the Kool-Aid. You swayed me. I'm turning sides now. Oh, good. Don't drink the Kool-Aid. I won't even pay you to do this stuff, man. Good job, man.
Is that Byron? Nice. Oh,
boy. You're normalizing an insurrectionist.
Oh, boy. It's just so distasteful. But you know what? I'll take that any day over what we've seen on some college campuses. So there were protesters out there. They were calling them bootlickers, this, that, and the other. Look, the guy is running for president of the United States of America. People just need to get their heads around that, okay? No, he may go to jail, but this whole idea that somehow he's going to go away because you hit him with 91 counts, including 4 criminal, no, it's not working. In fact, he earned the name Teflon Don for a reason. It's like they keep throwing it at him and he keeps coming back stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. And part of it's just purely the fact that we're in a pretty bad state right now, from an economic perspective, from a border perspective, from a morale perspective, for goodness sakes. I'm serious on that. Not to mention internationally what's going on. But in addition to those protesters that you just saw, I want to show you this clip of one protester who really, you know what? It's his business, right? Like, he's free to protest out there. I'm a big believer in free speech. You do you, I do me. But here's the thing, you still need to treat people, including officers, police officers, with some respect. This guy clearly didn't have any for this woman who's just out there trying to do her job as a police officer in Washington, D.C., not an easy place to be, right? That is not an easy beat. Let's watch the clip.
Well, I'm back. You haven't cleared it. You need to back them up. This is not my first rodeo. I'm back. I'm clear. I don't get in the way of anybody. You're telling me to go get out of here and don't let anybody see or hear you. And that is not free speech.
So sorry for the loss of your dignity, sir.
So, if you really want to do that, get a lawyer.
Get a lawyer? Really? That's come on. All right. You know what? Again, the woman's just trying to do her job. It would be nice if some folks on the left could have a little bit of respect for those in uniform. But it is what it is. It is what it is these days, ladies and gentlemen. One of the things that these protesters are protesting about, of course, is the fact that he's back there on Capitol Hill, and they keep pointing to J6 and all that went down at that time. But it's an interesting thing for them to bring up at this particular moment in time, because he was highly criticized for not sending in the National Guard. Remember that? And then he said, but wait a second, I tried. I tried to send the National Guard in, and guess what? I got literally nowhere. Well, there's a reason for that. You see, there's this thing called bureaucracy, federal government at its best. And apparently this was Nancy Pelosi's job, to call in the National Guard. And for whatever reason, Nancy Pelosi didn't do it. And that never came out. In fact, just the opposite came out. But a newly resurfaced tape has Nancy admitting the actual truth. I want you to see this because, her daughter Alexandra was running around shooting all this video, and Alexandra somehow managed to get this particular comment on tape, but then never bothered to reveal it. So this just came out. It's Nancy admitting the truth about what her responsibility was on that particular day. Let's watch.
We did not have any accountability for what was going on there, and we should have. This is ridiculous. You're going to ask me in the middle of the thing when they've already breached the inaugural stuff that should we call the Capitol Police? I mean the National Guard? Why weren't the National Guard there to begin with?
They thought that they had sufficient resources.
That is not a question of how they had, they don't know. They clearly didn't know, and I take responsibility for not having them just prepare for more.
Oh, wow, Nancy, we're really glad you take responsibility for that because you haven't before. In fact, if anything, you've just been pointing the fingers all around the mulberry bush at everybody else, specifically on one man, that would be the former president of the United States, Donald Trump. It's all his fault entirely. He didn't stop it. Well, you wouldn't let him because you were controlling the access to the actual people that would have prevented all the craziness from ensuing, right? That was your job. You were supposed to call in the National Guard, and you didn't do it. In fact, we've looked at some of the testimony. We've looked at some of the interviews. And prior to that infamous day, Nancy had every opportunity in the world, and she didn't bother. Why didn't she bother? Ask yourself that question. I was asking myself. It came out later that indeed Donald Trump had tried to do this. Donald Trump tried to get the National Guard in there. He pushed hard. And they don't want you to know this. They don't want you to believe this. They don't want you to think they could have ever done that. But you know what? He did try. And this has since come out. In fact, thanks to the Federalist and Molly Hemingway's reporting there at the Federalist, she had this exclusively in which she explained how Liz Cheney and the January 6th committee deliberately suppressed any evidence of Donald Trump pushing for the National Guard on that infamous day. This would have been the exonerating evidence, but they did not want you to see this. Ask yourself why. Again, we just need the truth out there. I'm tired. I'm tired of the politics, okay? We need people to understand what's really going on, whether it be with the border. New concerns today about just exactly who has been let in. Fox News reporting that there are 8 people with ties to ISIS terror groups. I mean, what the heck is going on, Joe Biden? You're making a big free-for-all. You're the one who sat there in the Democrat debate back in 2020 and said you encouraged people to, quote, stampede the border. Seriously. Well, we're paying for it now. And that's not a good place for America to be. You wonder why you're getting massacred in the polls. It's not that hard to figure out. I mean, here's the thing. All right, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Anyone, almost anyone, could beat Donald Trump. Like the kid at your local, forgive me, anyone could beat Joe Biden, okay? Anyone. Like the kid at your local student council high school is going to beat Joe Biden. Anyone. It's just interesting that it's Donald Trump, right? That's going to come in. That's what makes it so hard for the left. And let me also be very specific that while I say anybody could beat him and should beat him, I do believe that Donald Trump actually is going to win this thing because that's how bad it is for our nation. And you know what? You get what you asked for, Joe. You don't have a clue about policy. And as a result of that, people are going to vote you out. And that's exactly how it should be here in the United States of America. Every single poll shows this. So granted, yes, anyone should be able to beat Joe Biden, assuming that we have free and fair elections, dare I say. I mean, I'm bringing it up because guess what happened in Bridgeport, Connecticut? You guys saw the tape. We talked all about it yesterday. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch yesterday's show. Look what happened in Bridgeport, Connecticut. 4 people have been arrested. How did it take them 3.5 years? Why was it 3.5 years to actually formally arrest them? Governor Lamont, a Democrat in Connecticut, is asking this very question. Because the scandal is that they sat on this thing. I mean, the scandal is obviously what went down. It went down in 2019. So they found out about it 3.5 years ago. Well, what happened 3.5 years ago? Oh, dear. Oh, my. Joe Biden was elected president of the United States, and then came into office, and suddenly I couldn't say these words, right? Like what I'm actually saying right now here on this live show. Please make sure you subscribe, like, share, comment, all of that good stuff. I couldn't have said this even. I mean, it was so uptight and so stressful. They just came out a few months ago and said you can talk about election interference, et cetera. I mean, it was crazy. Like, where is our First Amendment? You couldn't talk about this stuff. And suddenly the people that were responsible for this ballot maneuvering, or whatever you call it, they've got all kinds of fancy ways of saying, I guess you're not supposed to say ballot stuffing, or, writing in people's votes, or whatever else you want to call it. You're not supposed to say that. Whatever that was, that got like torpedoed to the point where now the Democrat governor of Connecticut is like, what the heck, people? 3.5 years later, you finally bothered to arrest Wanda and her friends. I mean, that's scary. Okay, so when I say that anyone should be able to beat Joe Biden, I mean it, assuming that we've got a very level playing field. News out of Fulton County, Georgia. Fulton County, Georgia, what a place. Home to Fannie Willis and Nathan Wade. Fulton County, Georgia. Miscounted votes. They actually double counted some votes. 3,075 votes, to be specific. So this is stuff that needs to get cleaned up. And you know what? Lara Trump's doing a really good job at it. I commend her for trying. You got Governor Youngkin in Virginia, who is ordering a complete forensic accounting, if you would, of their voter rolls in Virginia. So that's a good sign. You've got Fulton County, Georgia's committee that's reviewing their elections, at least demanding some oversight for November. So you're seeing increasingly people get serious about this. But I find it amazing that it took 3.5 years to see anything come of the allegations leveled against 4 individuals in Bridgeport, Connecticut. By the way, all of whom are believed to have tampered with the vote to the point where people are unclear about whether or not the guy really should have been elected mayor. In fact, in the most recent mayoral election just last year, there's video of one of the people actually walking right up to the voting box and putting things in. What's going on there? I mean, they haven't even gotten to that. They got around 2019. What's going on there? Governor Lamont, Democrat, again, out of Connecticut, saying really that she ought to resign from her job that taxpayers are paying for. She's on some kind of leave, so she's still getting paid. I mean, amazing, amazing, amazing stuff. But it's a curious time. The Democrats have themselves one bad candidate. And they think that they can run based on just, Trump is bad, Trump is awful, Trump is whatever. And I do think that ultimately Americans go to the voting booths and they say, well, how am I doing? How do I think I'm going to do? And so it does come back to the economy, stupid. To quote Carville, right? James Carville, who coined the phrase with Bill Clinton, it's the economy, stupid, and our economy is not good. I'm going to have more coming up on that in just a quick moment, ladies and gentlemen, just a quick moment. One of our great sponsors here on the program happens to be American Heart for Gold. If you're interested in buying gold, you should definitely give these guys a call. Really, really terrific team. Big company. They've been growing and growing and growing. There's a lot of interest in gold, understandably, given some of the chaos in the world right now. So you can call them at 1-844-495-1115. Use my name to receive up to $15,000 in free silver, or text Trish to 65532. Text Trish to 65532. Again, up to $15,000 in free silver. It's a pretty neat offer. So text Trish right now, 65532, or go to the link. This is easy. You can't forget this one. Trish Loves Gold. TrishLovesGold.com. If you forget that, you're in trouble. Anyway, go check it out and try to get that offer. Up to $15K in free silver. And silver keeps climbing too, ladies and gentlemen. Keeps climbing as well. So, big day on Capitol Hill. The former president talking to GOP lawmakers. And of course, he's having a little bit of fun and he likes to tell stories. And the next thing you know, somebody's tweeting about it. This reporter from an internet news organization started tweeting out what Donald Trump said about Nancy Pelosi. He seems to recall, it's a wild story, by the way, completely wild, so buckle up, okay? He seems to recall one of the daughters saying to him, jokingly that in another world that, maybe the two of them would have dated. The two of them would have gotten along just great. They might have been a thing. I'm not so sure that one of the daughters said that, but this is what Donald Trump remembers, and this is the story he told, and everybody's laughing, and this, that, and the other. He's sort of saying, you know what, like, she's not that bad. He's like sort of throwing her a bone, but the daughter takes it way too seriously. One of the daughters, I think she's got like 4 daughters. And so the next thing you know, the daughter's responding on Twitter, and now it becomes this whole big thing. Look at this. Nancy Pelosi's daughter, this is in the Daily Mail, great paper, avidly denied Donald Trump's account that one of the former speaker's daughters had told him that he and her mom would have been a great thing together in another life. Quote, Nancy Pelosi's daughter, he said, oh, this is bad, is a wacko. He's laughing, right? Her daughter told me if things were different, Nancy and I would have been perfect together. There's an age difference, though, he said. She's a little bit older. Anyway, multiple members confirmed to dailymail.com that Trump had indeed told the story of her daughter mentioning Pelosi and Trump would be great together. Well, the daughter did not take kindly to that. She's out on Twitter saying there's no way this ever happened, and he's completely a lunatic, and this feeds into the wacko narrative. It was Jake Sherman who actually tweeted this out, and she writes, Christine Pelosi, speaking for all 4 Pelosi daughters, this is a lie in all caps. His deceitful, deranged obsession with our mother is yet another reason Donald Trump is unwell, unhinged, and unfit to step foot anywhere near her or the White House. Wow. So he's got a deranged obsession with the mother. I don't know about that. I actually think that the mother might have a bit of a deranged obsession with Donald Trump. But it's not entirely deranged, right? There's a method to the madness, as I was saying earlier, because Biden is so beatable. So what do? You double down on this narrative that Trump is not stable, that Trump is going to ruin democracy, that Trump is bad, and you are bad if you even think for 2 seconds of voting for the guy. That's their entire political shtick. It's pretty alarming, right? But that's what they want you to think, and hopefully you think more of yourself than to allow the Democrats to frame your position. But Nancy Pelosi, in a weird way, is obsessed with Trump. As is Whoopi Goldberg, as is Joy Behar, as is, remember that Kathy Griffith? I mean, they're all obsessed with Donald Trump. But let me be very clear. It's not just Donald Trump they're obsessed with. I mean, they go after anyone and everyone. Think about it. Look at how they went after Ron DeSantis. They called him all the same things that they're calling Donald Trump. Look at how they went after even Nikki Haley, who, right, should be like the cheerleader of their club. And they were saying that she was racist because she didn't have a good enough explanation when she was talking about the Civil War. And did she dare to say that there were some economic issues involved? Couldn't even go there, right? I mean, let me just tell you, as a student of economic history, guess what? There were economic issues involved. A lot of this was about how the economy was changing, North versus South. Were we going to be an agrarian economy? Were we going to be an industrial economy? And yes, there was obviously the issue of human beings, but Nikki Haley wasn't entirely wrong when she talked about the economic roots of the Civil War, but they jumped on her like you wouldn't believe. And by the way, the woman is Indian on top of it. So she's technically a minority herself. I mean, what do they want? Look at them going after Byron Donalds, who I know you love, out of Florida. The congressman, the only congressman I know that can talk about the Federal Reserve. Like literally talk about the Federal Reserve with you for like an hour and have a substantive conversation on the economy. He's a former money manager, so he knows this stuff. Byron is Black. And he talked about during the days after the Civil War how Black Americans were married and they were going to school and they were staying in their family units. And actually, it was the 1960s in Johnson and the economic policies of welfare that destroyed the Black family by kicking the man out of the house. Now, Byron's not wrong in saying anything like that, but what do you read in the headlines? Byron Donalds, he just wants to go back to the Jim Crow South. I mean, this is dangerous to them. So my point being, they don't have anything else to run on. They don't have policy. For goodness sakes, if you really want to run on that whole race issue, I mean, Joe Biden does not exactly have a good track record, and Kamala Harris pointed that out in the 2020 debate. I couldn't believe he picked her as VP. It shows you how political he really is. But she pointed out, hey, buddy, you were against busing. You were against the integration of schools in America because you were standing with your friend, was it from South Carolina? I mean, look. You can have that talk all day. I don't see Trump going around calling people boy. That's what Biden does over and over again. So they don't have a darn thing to run on. So what do? They go back to the well and they make stuff up. Anyway, Nancy Pelosi's daughter, all in a tizzy. I just tell her to calm down, to laugh it off. You just made a way bigger deal of it. She thinks this is going to help. It's not. It's not. That helps Trump, not Nancy. Speaking of people who are bad at their jobs and just not good, let's talk about Nathan Wade for a moment. Now, if you don't know Nathan Wade, you need to know Nathan Wade because he is the guy who had the thing with Fani Willis down in Fulton County, Georgia. We go back to Georgia again. Okay, so Nathan Wade was married, had a family, and was getting paid a lot of money by Fani Willis via the taxpayers of Fulton County. So he made like nearly $700,000, according to Ashley Merchant, who revealed all this, courtesy of the ex-wife, right? That thing was going down at the same time that Fani and Nathan Wade were going after Donald Trump. And so Ashley, rightly so, made the point, how can you be going after Donald Trump when Fani Willis, you shouldn't even have the job in the first place? So that case has now become a thing. And that's where you need your forensic accounting. They can team up with the ex-wife. They're going to get in there and just figure out exactly what was going on. So part of the issue now becomes, when did the relationship start? In other words, did she hire her boyfriend and maybe work out some kind of deal where she got a little something on the side monetarily? Or did they just have this office romance as they try to suggest? Well, this came up in a recent CNN interview. And in this interview, the reporter asked Nathan Wade, by the way, why is he doing all these interviews? Serious question. Why do we need to hear from Nathan Wade at all? Why can't he just go quietly away? Is he trying to get a CNN gig? What is this about? Unless it's about spinning a narrative that somehow the relationship happened on the job as opposed to beforehand, because he knows when he goes to court, if she went out and specifically hired the beau, then it actually presents a new set of legal challenges and hurdles, right? So that may be partly what this is about. And he's trying to influence public opinion however he can. I don't know. But for some reason, CNN actually wants to interview him. Go figure. Go figure. Anyway, let's take a look. He like flipped out and walked out on this interview when the reporter asked a kind of important question.
Just to clarify, when did the romantic relationship between the two of you start?
Yeah, so you know, we get into, there's been this effort to say that, okay, these exact dates are at issue, and these exact dates are, I'm getting signaled here.
Look at this. His handlers jump in.
Yes. Okay.
He's got a media consultant there. They're interrupting the interview. He walks off the set. The reporter just sits there. He can't continue. And the amazing thing is that CNN actually showed you all this, because often what they do is they just cut this part out. But here he is talking to Nathan Wade, probably telling him, you got to be really, really careful how you handle this question, because you're going to be in legal jeopardy. So now he's coming back, really weird moment. And the reporter's like, okay, can we start again?
Everything okay?
Yeah.
Just to revisit the question, it was to clarify when the romantic relationship started and when it ended.
Sure. So, you know, I believe that the public has, through the testimony and other interviews, the public has a clear snapshot that this is clearly just a distraction. It is not a relevant issue in this case, and I think that we should be focusing on more of the facts and the indictment in the case.
Well,
so in other words, you need to focus on the facts. You need to focus on Trump. You need to focus on the indictment. What are you doing asking me about Fani? I'm not going to answer that question. By the way, he's not a very good lawyer. Can we just get that out there? He's clearly not a good lawyer, you guys, because he ought to know instinctively the trouble he's in. He ought to just not answer certain questions. He ought to be able to be skilled enough verbally to be able to figure his way out and around that and then have said something clever. This is what politicians do all the time, right? It's so darn annoying. They don't actually answer the question. They give you a bunch of garbage and move on. But Nathan Wade is not smart enough to do that. I'll tell you, the Democrat Party's over this too. They are just over Fannie. They are over Nathan. I believe the quote in Newsweek just the other day was, Fannie blew it. Yeah, that was the headline. I showed it to you. It was unbelievable. It was great. But you know who else blew it? Nathan Wade. Big time. Hillary Clinton is sparking a lot of concern, like a total meltdown in the Democrat Party as we speak, ladies and gentlemen, because Hillary Clinton did the unthinkable. Hillary Clinton is going up against a member of the squad. How dare she? You know, I'm not a Hillary fan, as you know, but I got to hand it to her. This is a good move. George Latimer. That's who she is endorsing. This is like super rare because she's given the middle finger to Jamal Bowman. That's a giant, you know what, to Jamal Bowman, the fire alarm guy, right? So part of this, understandably, is that Jamal is so out in left field, as are other members of the squad, that they're really not standing up for some of the values, including our alliance with Israel, that Hillary Clinton would consider important. And I can tell you right now, Latimer's actually got a really good shot, really, really good shot at being the congressional Democrat nominee. So now to get the backing of Hillary Clinton, it's a heck of an endorsement. And you know what? Jamal ought to be beatable. I mean, this is the guy that pulled the fire alarm. Like this is the kind of stuff you should theoretically go to jail for. I mean, seriously speaking, I mean, if you're interrupting a congressional procedure, that would be a budget vote, by taking away, look at that. He takes away the sign and then goes and pulls the fire alarm. He takes away the sign that says not to do that. I mean, he pulled the frickin' fire alarm. How is this guy still in Congress? Right? And then he took down the sign. Like as though to hide the evidence, to pretend like, well, I didn't know. You knew, buddy. You knew. You took down the sign. So Hillary Clinton comes out and endorses a competitor for the congressional seat. Oh my gosh. And some of the lefties are going crazy. They're like, how dare she? And this is why she lost to Trump and this, that, and the other. And oh, they hate her. This was part of Hillary's problem, by the way. I think she was a very divisive candidate. Not just between the left and the right, but even within the party itself. All that said, where this guy is in New York, I think Jamal is super beatable, and Hillary Clinton just kind of put the nail in the coffin, if you would. She is causing a lot of people to say, what on earth, lady? What are you doing? What are you doing? But this is one where I actually commend her. If I ever can, this is the opportunity to do so, right? Credit where credit's due. Jamal does not belong in Congress at all. Neither do the rest of them. Rashida, AOC, Cori Bush, they're all a disaster. Let's hope they're all lame ducks. Speaking of lame ducks, we got a few of those over in Europe right now. Taking a look across the pond, there's this lovely photo, which I found kind of funny, of the Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, out of Italy, and she's surrounded by her 6 little lame ducks. All 6 of them are on the way out. You see, all 6 of them have adopted this really globalist liberalism identity and pushed policies that haven't worked for the people back at home. So consequently, you're looking at mass inflation worldwide. You're looking at housing struggles worldwide. You're looking at migration patterns. I mean, it's not just us. I know sometimes we feel it, but I was just overseas. I was in the UK and I heard about this non-stop from people in the UK talking about how people were coming in from Africa and the Middle East and it was draining resources. And they're like, hey, we want to help, but let's be realistic. So that's pretty hard on Britain's prime minister, right? Rishi Sunak, he's going to be out. And then you got challenges in Japan. I mean, gosh, they've got inflation. They've got economic challenges. We talk about Biden all day long, so we'll skip over him for a second. You got Germany's chancellor. That's messed up. We just saw in some recent poll results there. Total disaster. Macron, I'll get to him in a second, but take a look at Trudeau there. Oh, Justin Trudeau standing up for Canada. He's actually doing what the rest of them are doing too. They're all trying to blame conservatism. They're like, conservatism is bad. MAGA is bad. MAGA is taking over the world. It's MAGA's fault. It's Donald Trump's fault that the world is where it is. And we are all struggling for our political behinds. Here's Justin Trudeau just this week talking about how there's a civil war kind of thing brewing in Canada.
We have seen around the world a rise of populist right-wing forces in just about every democracy that we've seen. And it is of concern to see political parties choosing to instrumentalize anger, fear, division, anxiety. My approach has always been to respond to it, to understand it and to look to solve it, to roll up our sleeves, work hard and with ambition for this country and for our future. And I continue to be convinced that Canadians are thoughtful about the challenges we're facing and ready to see them solved, rather than just allow themselves to be have their anger amplified without any solutions offered.
Right, because somehow it's those people on the right that are amplifying the anger, etc. I mean, maybe the anger is amplified because you screwed up as far as your own, they got immigration issues there as your own immigration issues in Canada. Maybe it's amplified because you've got a housing crisis there and an inflation crisis there. Does anybody want to take 2 seconds and look at themselves and their own policies and how sort of the WEF, World Economic Forum moment is kind of messing things up? I mean, heck, Larry Fink, who runs BlackRock, like this is the biggest fund management company in the world. They control trillions of dollars in assets. Like, to put it in perspective, I think that they might have more than the size of US GDP, like under, or half the size of US GDP under management. I mean, these are big numbers, something like $14 trillion. So yeah, I guess it'd be like half the size of GDP. I mean, even Larry, who was all about ESG and DEI and all of these Davos themes, even he's like, he's come out recently and backed off of it. And he's actually one of the main backers of that new Texas stock exchange. We're going to talk about that on tomorrow's show. And by the way, if you haven't, go over and follow 76 Research, my other YouTube channel, with my co-founder at 76 Research. That would be Rob Horton. I also encourage you to go to the website and sign up and get the 76 report, because we got names, we got ideas, and we got stocks for you to be thinking about in your portfolio. We also have more model portfolios. There is 3 different model portfolios. There are 3 model portfolios that you can choose from, 10 to 15 stocks in each one. So go to 76 Research, click on model portfolios, take a look at which one works for you. You can also get a special discount and be part of the Founders Club if you get all 3 plus the 76 report. So that's actually the best deal. So for those of you that are really economical, that'll give you the best access to the research. And let me just tell you, I got a really good feel for things on a macro basis. But Rob is all in on the intricacies of each and every one of these stocks, ladies and gentlemen. So 10 to 15 in each of the portfolios. Do check it out. I would just say that you got economic challenges going on worldwide. And that's one of the reasons why, if we take a look at this map, I love this, out of France, Macron is like, okay, I got to call for elections. Because I want to call people's bluff. Do they really like Le Pen? Do they really agree with Marie Le Pen? Marie Le Pen has made a big deal about some of the immigration challenges, etc. Well, here's a map of France. The brown part is the conservative part. No San Francisco map jokes, okay? I know about that app. I think I did that on one of the shorts the other day. You can check out my shorts feed. Anyway, take a look there. Drew put it up. It does look like France, does it not? Oh my gosh. Careful where you step in San Francisco. Anyway, back to France for a second. Look, this is the reality of what's going on in France, ladies and gentlemen, and it's turning conservative. So when Macron comes out And Macron says, hey, we want to get rid of the right. It's the extremists on the right that are ruining France. I look at this map and say, I don't think so, buddy. I think this is France. All right, you're in the minority at this point. I mean, maybe he's got some population centers, of course. But a lot of France is over Macron. So now Macron is calling for elections. But here's the kicker, ladies and gentlemen. He came out with a statement to the press saying that regardless of what happens in these elections, he's not going to resign. Here we go. Politico has it. Macron called for the elections. This is on Sunday night in response to a big win by the far-right National Party in the European election, which is putting a lot of pressure, of course, on his administration. But he said on Tuesday that he would, quote, not resign whatever the results of the upcoming French parliamentary elections might be. Like, wow. Like, wow, right? I mean, granted, it's a parliamentary system. It's a little different, but how is nobody calling that one out? Hey, buddy, if they don't want you, they don't want you. If you get voted out, you should step down. And yet he's saying, no. I'm here to stay. Like it or not. I mean, does that feel a little dictatorship to you? They talk about Trump, for goodness sakes. I think we get some lefties or a lot more. I don't want to say right wing because that would be a dig on the right. But at some point you go so far left, you're back at the right again, right? Like at some point it's all about one thing, it's control. And that's where it becomes the dictatorship. That's where you get an authoritarian regime controlling everything. So they're getting so extreme right now on the left that I think it's fair and right for us to worry about it becoming that authoritarian approach, right? You think about Stalin, etc. They had these ideas that are very similar to a lot of the revolutionary leftist thinkers right now. But ultimately, where does that get you? It gets you at a loss of your freedom, a loss of your freedom. They keep saying, well, it's MAGA's fault and the economy's great, and how dare you question it, right? How dare you think otherwise? It's your fault if you don't feel good economically. I'll tell you, I took my kids out to lunch today to just a little tiny diner, for like grilled cheeses. I was staggered by I nearly fell over when I saw the bill. I'm like, what is, it was the milkshakes. Clearly the milkshakes. Milk costs are going up, egg costs are going up. It's wild, all right? It's really, really wild. And I'm lucky, you know what? I can handle it. But you think about Americans that are living on a very fixed budget. They're not going out to lunch or to dinner anymore. They're not going out. Movies, forget it. Nobody goes to the movies anymore anyway, right? So this starts to have a ripple effect. People can't spend as much because everything costs so darn much more. And then you're not creating enough jobs to keep up with it. Let's be honest with ourselves, all right? We got 278,000, 280-something thousand the other day out of the Biden administration, the Labor Department reporting on this, non-farm payrolls being up, and everybody's doing a party and high-fiving each other. And I'm like, yeah, don't be so psyched, because first of all, just to keep pace with population growth, it's not enough. You need at least 350,000. That was actually 10 years ago. So the numbers are probably higher now. But that was sort of the rule of thumb. It's not enough. Meanwhile, simultaneously, the unemployment rate went up. So what's really going on? I love Zero Hedge. It's another great website. I know the guys over there. It's all like sort of anonymous, right? It's Tyler that runs it, but there's 5 terrific guys that actually really know their stuff, and they're like knee deep in this economic minutia. Kind of like Rob is, I love this. So I check out their site all the time. And they had a really good story today on what's really going on. They're calling it the most ridiculous job report in years. That's a great title, right? And the reason they're saying this, by the way, economists always, it's 272. Economists always get this wrong, non-farm payrolls. It's very hard for them to get this one right. But the reason they're saying this is all messed up is that if you really peel back all the layers, employed workers plunged by 408,000. So just keep this in mind. When you think that the economy is kind of messed up and you don't feel really good about the future and you feel like everything's more expensive and it's harder to go out to eat and it's harder to go on vacation, you're not alone. People get this. And that's why sentiment is so bad. And this is why people are so pessimistic. And this is why Joe Biden is not going to be elected again unless they get something up their sleeve that we don't know about. This is why. So let's break out this chart for a moment. They're actually saying that the number of employed workers actually went down. Look at that. Negative more than 400 and some odd thousand. And this estimate is basically looking at what the establishment is telling you it is and what the real number is. And so when they use their calculations, and we'll go through how they calculated this, but when you look at what the real number is versus the establishment, it's really, really wrong. There will be adjustments after the fact, so we'll look at those in the future. But look at the green. That's what the establishment thinks it's actually coming out as. And look at the blue. This is where the real data is showing you it really is. And look at how off, like wildly off, these things are. Now, in fairness, sometimes the establishment underestimates how many jobs we actually created. If you go back to the beginning of this chart, the second bar right there, what do you see? Oh, it looks like the real numbers showed you that the economy created more jobs than the establishment was willing to tell you. But keep going forward and look at these recent years. You know, Biden's trying to spin, but it's getting wacky. It's getting wacky. I'm seeing a very, very big divergence between what government says and what the real calculation might be. Now, taking a look back again at their article there on Zero Hedge, when they ran the calculations, they were looking at things, for example, like how many jobs people are working. Like people are working like 3 jobs. So if you get 3 jobs, that's not added as 1 job to the economy. It's added as 3 jobs to the economy. But hang on, you're now working 3 jobs. So those 3 jobs aren't actually worth maybe what the 1 job used to be worth, because we've increasingly made this transition into a gig economy. Now, we can debate the pluses and minuses of that. You know, maybe people have more ownership in terms of what they're doing, and they've diversified their risk across various employers, and there's something to be said for that. But what ticks me off is that they're not giving you the real information as far as the real numbers go. And I think that's kind of a problem. Again, you know, they also factor in this little thing called the payroll growth vis-a-vis the birth death adjustment, which is a statistical sort of fudge factor that, quote, imputes job growth for any given month based on the entirely subjective assumption made by a group of pro-Biden bureaucrats of how many new businesses were created or destroyed in the U.S. economy at any given moment. Well, in May, the birth-death adjustment, recently exposed by none other than Bloomberg, added 231,000 payrolls to the pre-seasonally adjusted number. More astonishing is that the birth-death imputation has resulted in 56% of all payroll growth, or 1.9 statistical payrolls in the past year. Wow. When according to the BLS, a total of 3.4 million payrolls were created. So if 3.4 million jobs, right, they call them payrolls, were created, but 1.9 million of those were just statistical payrolls created, assumed by the pro-Biden bureaucrats, and we know some of them, right? Jared Bernstein, who's not an economist. He's a music major from Manhattan School of Music, who went on to be a social worker at Columbia University, got a degree in social work, and now he's on the economic team. I mean, that's what you're dealing with here. So they call 1.9 million. Wow, guys. So we're really, really not adding jobs. And then when you think about the jobs that are actually being added, if everybody's working 3 jobs, these are not good jobs. Okay? So stop spinning, Biden, and stop trying to gaslight us. Stop it, because we know what's real. We do go out to dinner. We do go to the grocery store. We do have to pay the electric bill and the heating bill and the air conditioning and this, that, and the other. And everybody's looking at it going, what the heck just happened? I'll tell you what happened. Bidenomics happened, ladies and gentlemen. Bidenomics. You should check out Bidenomics.com. My friends are at AFP. They bought it. AmericansForProsperity.org. Wonderful organization that cares about policy, that cares about the economy, that cares about oil prices. wow, they beat everyone to it, right? All those TikTokers in the Biden administration, nobody could have the foresight to buy Bidenomics.com. So if you go to Bidenomics.com or AmericansForProsperity.org, which will take you to Bidenomics.com, guess what? You're going to see the truth. It's not working. Not working for America. Never has, never will. I'll tell you, you know what? It's been tried all over the world. These socialist communist policies, they've been tried and they've been tried again. And you know what? We keep coming back to the same darn thing. It doesn't work. There's one thing that lifts all boats, and that's capitalism, baby. I'm a red-blooded American capitalist. You know that. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you do. Subscribe, like, share. This is the truth. This is only the truth. That's all you're going to get from me. By the way, Father's Day coming up. Have you gotten your Trish Regan shop merchandise? You can help support the show over there. Mm-hmm. And get your Live Free or Die Trish Regan signed mug. You can get your Live Free or Die hat. You can get your flag hat. Lots of really good patriotic stuff. You can do this for Father's Day. We're coming up close on the deadline though, so you might also want to think about 4th of July, which is right around the corner. Just go to Trish Regan, REGAN.shop. I said REGAN, which is how you spell my name, but it's interesting. A lot of people have said, hey, are you related to Reagan, and Ronald Reagan? And I'm like, well, no, but maybe. I mean, heck, probably Donald Reagan, right? Donald Reagan was in his cabinet, but not Reagan, at least not that I know about. But I've recently had this great experience. I'm going to tell you in a little bit about sort of this homecoming, if you would, because I have a lot of relatives still in Ireland. And I've been going back and forth because I've got an Irish step dancing daughter. So we've been spending some time over there, and I've reconnected. I hadn't seen a lot of my cousins since I was really, really little, like 5 years old. But the actual Irish spelling of the name is O'Regan, Reagan, and that's how they pronounce it in Irish. And given that I'm a woman, it would be Ní Regan. So just interesting trivia for you. I'm going to get to that, a little bit more of that in a second, but I got to tell you about this story. So I've been going back and forth to Ireland, and every single time I'm in Dublin, I try to make a reservation at the Shelbourne Hotel, which is a Marriott hotel. And, I collect my little Marriott points as an Envoy member. I should have a sponsorship with Marriott. I really should. Because I love, I kid you not, I signed up as an Envoy member and I started getting and collecting points, and then I used them, and I'm like, wow, this is easy, and it's on an app. So we're going to put that on the to-do list for the production team. Marriott, and by the way, great family from New Hampshire. They spend summers anyway in New Hampshire. Bill Marriott, the wonderful family up on Lake Winnipesaukee, good people. Anyway, the Shelbourne is an awesome hotel. It's part of the Marriott chain, and then it's run by the Marriott. And every single time I'm in Dublin, I try to stay there, and something happens. And so recently, I've been in another great hotel, which is, by the way, also a Marriott. Points, baby, points. And that was College Green. So we were staying in the College Green Hotel in Dublin recently. This is my Instagram account. If you're not following me on Instagram, follow me at Trish_Regan. Yeah, somebody like a dolphin lady. She swims with dolphins in Hawaii or something. She got the Trish Regan. So I'm going with the underscore. Trish_Regan. That's my account on Instagram. And the last night I was in Dublin, we were actually in the hotel right next door to the Shelbourne. There's a method to the madness because there was a fire at the Shelbourne. I'm going to tell you in a second. But I was there in Dublin. We stayed at the College Green Hotel, great hotel, right next door to the Shelbourne and right next door to Trinity University. And they were really nice to us. They put us in the presidential suite. We got this huge upgrade. I mean, huge upgrade. It was myself and my daughter, and she's running around going, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And we were FaceTiming with my son, who was like, gosh, why didn't I get to go on that trip? Anyway, it was an amazing time. That was my last night on one of the first trips to Dublin. But the Shelbourne is just funny because it keeps coming up. I talked to my friend Sean Spicer, good Irishman, the other day, and Sean's like, oh, you were in Dublin? I was just in Dublin. I stayed at the Shelbourne. And I'm like, yeah, I was trying to stay at the Shelbourne, but somehow it didn't happen. He's like, let me know. Next time, maybe, I'll see what I can do. Well, they just had a fire at the Shelbourne. They just had a fire overnight, and people were evacuated from the hotel. very storied history, which we'll also get to in a second. And one of the people that was evacuated from this historic, amazing, wonderful hotel in Dublin was somebody pretty darn famous, but the reporters didn't know it. So the Dublin media is there, and they're interviewing all the people that come outside. They interview this guy, and it's like just a totally normal kind of what we call man on street interview, sort of anonymous, until somebody figures out who it is. Did you guys watch Happy Days ever? Yeah, Happy Days. Remember the Fonz? Henry Winkler, he was staying there. Anyway, let's go to the tape of Mr. Winkler getting interviewed, talking about what went down at the Shelbourne overnight.
We cannot let you leave without a little bit of a view party because of the special day. Our friends at Empire Cake here in New York City sent a very cool cake over to celebrate you and all 78 years.
Thank you.
So a happy, happy birthday. And is that cake coming?
You know what? All right, can I just say, first of all, my birthday cake is that I got to sit at this table.
Oh.
That's number one, and that is the truth. You are
Okay, we're going to have to forgive him for that.
powerful.
Wait, Drew, do we have the video of him at the outside the Shelbourne? Okay, we have some video, courtesy of actually Daily Mail at it again, of Henry Winkler being interviewed there at the Shelbourne Hotel, talking about all the firefighters and how wonderful the firefighters were and how great the whole experience was. I'm going to send it to you again so we can get it up, but it was pretty cool. Anyway, so again, Henry Winkler, did you see that cake? And again, we have to forgive him that, right? Because we're not fans of The View here on the Trish Regan Show. We just actually can't stand that show. We can't believe anybody actually watches that show. We can't even believe that show is still on the air. Because I'll tell you this, once somebody buys Disney, and you know somebody's going to buy Disney, and they're going to realize that they need to make that thing actually profitable. And you're not going to be able to make it profitable, ladies and gentlemen, not with the salaries that you're paying at The View. It might be in trending topics. I'm just letting Drew know behind the scenes. You see, this is how the sausage is made, ladies and gentlemen. Just stay with me because I think that it's just funny to see, and I want to be able to show it to you. Again, Henry Winkler getting interviewed outside the Shelbourne Hotel. Here we go. We got it. And this is just, it's kind of funny to see in light of him being who he is. I love that they showed you guys the little cake with the jumping over the shark. I mean, that's how I feel about The View. I feel like they've jumped the shark. My kids will say to me, what does that expression mean? What do you mean jumping the shark? And I'm like, jumping the shark, you know? Nobody knows what that, I'm dating myself clearly. But that was the moment when Fonzie kind of, lost it because Fonzie actually jumped the shark. Like the ratings went down after that. Like everything kind of fell apart after that. That was the end. And so that is a moment in time when Fonzie jumped the shark, and yet they put that on The View. The View is a whole other conversation. We've had that discussion before, right, about how Bob Iger is selling off ABC, which includes ABC News, and he wants to get rid of all his linear television divisions. And so consequently, that's going to be one of the sacrificial lambs, I suspect, because you don't need to pay all that money to produce such a big show when you can actually do something much, much, much more easily. So Drew's working on that. And it's just funny because the man interviewed on TV about the hotel fire turned out to be this big Hollywood star. And he was really gracious about it. Really, really gracious, because he was like, I can't wait to go see the rest of Ireland. I'm really happy to be here. This is going to be great. And it was really sweet to see. Here, I'll read you the interview, some of his comments, and we'll see if we can get that up there.
But for others,
so again, Henry Winkler, he's got it. See, Drew is a magician. I don't know how we wound up with The View, for goodness sakes. Like, I never want to watch that show. I only watch it when we have to. So... I apologize, but you get the jump in the shark reference, don't you? Okay, here we go. We got Mr. Winkler being very gracious outside the hotel in Dublin.
But for others, a bigger Heathrow would lead to happy days. Richmond is a lovely place. I watch the planes go every day. I hear nothing.
You're relaxed.
I am.
He went on to go take all of these pictures with the firefighters. Again, Daily Mail did this big spread on it. It was really cute. And he said some very, very nice things about the Irish and about Dublin. And he said, the firemen are some of my favorite human beings. He said, they run in when other people are running out. I think that their hands deserve to be shook. It was an amazing adventure, he said, right here in Dublin. I cannot wait to see the rest of Dublin. So the fire alarms went off, I guess, around 10:30 in the morning. You know, they saw smoke coming out of one of the upper bedroom windows. And so that was sort of the big thing that was going down. I want to turn to Ireland itself. Again, back to the pictures, and we get some more news coming in on Trump that I'm going to get to momentarily. But I told you I've been going over there. Somehow I always miss staying in the Shelbourne, but one of these days I will. It's really got a tremendous history. I mean, an amazing history, guys, because it's 200 years old, and this is the place where effectively freedom was won for Ireland. They negotiated freedom in one specific room. There's a guy who is sort of the leader of the free movement there in Ireland named Michael Collins, and he had a negotiation in 1922 in room 112, in which they drafted the first Irish constitution. And so consequently, the Shelbourne is kind of an important backdrop, right, to the birth of the Irish Free State. They still have those colonies up north that are part of the UK, but the rest of the country became a free Ireland, which is a really big deal. And, you know, there's still, I think there's some sore spots about not having the rest of it. That may change, that may change in time as you see even some of the rhetoric that's coming out of, for example, Nigel Farage right now, who just is like, be done with it. And so maybe that happens and Ireland is fully united. But Michael Collins was pretty important because he was the leader of that Easter Rising movement back in 1916, in which you had all these people say, wait a second, enough. We're just not going to live under this British oppression anymore. So they fought for their freedom, and they really fought. 1916 did not go well. That was a pretty bad massacre in which so many Irish people lost their lives, and it's a sad moment in that country's history, but an important one because it's what led to 1922. And I just wanted to give a shout out for the Regan side of the family, because Liam O'Regan, who was my cousin. He's since passed away back in, I think it was 1969. Here's a picture of him when he was a young boy. And this is from one of the Waterford museums. It's in County Waterford that my family's from. So this is Liam O'Regan on the right, and it's coming from 1915. So this was right before, of course, the 16 uprising. He played a big role in that. And when we were just back, we got to see this big monument to him in his hometown there. And it was really, it just kind of gives me goosebumps, because I think the whole freedom thing, it's like in my core, as they say, in your blood. But what the Irish people went through was pretty awful. And, I think that the feelings are still very strong there. They have very vivid memories. It wasn't that long ago, right? It's just a generation ago. When I was a kid, I got the chance to meet Liam O'Regan's wife, and she's since passed away. But, these are stories that are handed down. And I think that, when you look at the oppression that they faced, it was such a tragedy, but it's also a wonderful story of people rising up and standing up for themselves and saying, okay, we need our freedom. We need our opportunities. We want respect for our culture. And so you see Irish being spoken again. You see Irish as the official language. You see Irish all over the airport, right? In Dublin, everything's in Irish and in English. And it's nice to see that appreciation for who they are and the memories of what they've went through and what that nation has become. So I just wanted to tell you about that. I wanted to tell you about that. I mean, we were just over there. I think we got a little bit of video of the kids running with their cousins. Oh my gosh, can you imagine looking at that view every single morning. I mean, this is it, right? Like incredible, just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful place. I took that picture. Again, you can see it on the Instagram account. And this is my kids running with their Irish cousins. And that would have been a British castle. All right. So my family didn't live anywhere like that. They would have been working for the people, right, that lived there. I think that's in Lismore. But anyway, having so much fun. It was a great trip. I can't wait to go back, everyone. I want to just take that opportunity to tell you a little bit about it in light of the Shelbourne Hotel being in the news today. We are glad everyone is safe. We are glad the Shelbourne is intact. And believe me, I will stay there next time I am in Dublin. It is great to have you here. Reminder, go over to 76 Research. I'm seeing all these compliments, by the way, and you guys are so sweet. I love it. It's a live show. It's a live show. If you haven't gone to 76, I'm going to put it right now in the rundown. We do want to get to some of the Trump stuff, so stay with me right now. There's some new sound coming into us. It's a live show. Lots of breaking news. Go to 76research.com. Make sure that you sign up. Again, the model portfolios, it's important for you. It's important for your financial future. This stuff matters, right? Like you can't rely on Uncle Joe. Or Uncle Sam, for that matter. You got to rely on yourself. So 76 gives you those opportunities, those ways to do that. You can also follow our channel at 76 Research on YouTube. But let's go right now into, I think we have some sound that's just coming to us. I'm just reading through some of the notes as we get this in real time of Donald Trump. I guess, let's see here. Let me make sure I do indeed have the right sound. I saw you pulling some of that up. So Drew, why don't you show us what you got? I think that we're going to be watching this together in real time.
BPS, because you told us at a town hall you already knew back in the Iowa caucuses.
I have sort of a pretty good idea. Look, we have some really talented people. I have a pretty good idea, but I think it's probably, I'll do it the way it's usually done. You announce it at
Male,
the convention.
female? Can you give us a hint?
I'll tell you.
Now,
Okay, so
he
this
knows
is
that
just
Democrats are watching his every move, and right now they are blowing something up that he said about the RNC host city, Milwaukee, apparently calling the city horrible. I asked him to explain, Martha, and he said that he was talking about the crime in the city and the election integrity issues, and he says that Democrats are just making a big fuss about nothing. He also made some pretty big news on the campaign trail. You'll remember that there was some back and forth between the Trump campaign, the RNC, and Larry Hogan, the former governor of Maryland, because he was telling voters and Americans to respect that New York verdict that came down against the former president. And I asked him, will you support Larry Hogan and will you endorse him? And he said, yeah, I guess I am here endorsing Larry Hogan. He's going to be behind him 100%. I also asked him about Hunter Biden, and I also asked him about many, many more things, including his conversation with Mitch McConnell, coming face to face with the GOP leader for the first time. He said he had a pleasant conversation with the leader after 4 years of bad blood. A lot more news from that interview. Martha?
Okay, great. It's good to get a little bit of a rundown there. Again, we had seen Donald Trump going into the meeting there on Capitol Hill. But again, they keep asking the question, who are you going to pick? Who are you going to pick for vice president? I'll throw that at you guys. And again, we're in a live show. So feel free to volunteer some names in the chat and we will discuss them. While I look at some of your responses, I did want to give a shout out to our friends over at Balance of Nature. They're running a great promo right now, where you can get their fiber and spice supplement. You can get 35% off if you use my name, and you can get an additional $10 off. I want to make sure I get it all right because it's like a really, really good deal. And you can get free shipping. So you can't beat this. I get this every single month delivered to my house, balanceofnature.com. You can call them 1-800-246-8751. Use discount code TRISH, TRISH, 1-800-246-8751, balanceofnature.com. Really awesome stuff because I feel great and I get lots of compliments from you guys. So I think I look okay too, but it's about taking care of yourself, right? Take care of yourself. Take your fruits and veggies like I do every single day. Make sure you get the vitamins, make sure you drink enough water, make sure you get your exercise and, take some pride in all of this. It's hard. It's hard to do. Tomorrow coming up on the show, we're going to talk about all of this Miss Universe and Miss Alabama scandal that's going on. All kinds of things in the beauty pageant world to discuss. But, I will say they have a very large woman who won Miss Alabama, not the real Miss Alabama, as in Miss America or even Miss USA, some fringe pageant, but it has people asking this question, like, at what point does society say, okay, well, like, you think you're thin, but you're not? Or Dinesh D'Souza, you know Dinesh, right? He's the producer of speaking of all this voting integrity things, he had that the Mule movie out. Anyway, Dinesh is a friend, and he was on the show recently, and he said, can you imagine if a young woman was suffering from an eating disorder of some kind, and she went to the doctor and said, I want to get gastric bypass surgery. And they'd say, but no, you're too thin. You can't do that. And she said, but I think I'm this way, right? It's all about like what's in your head. And at some point, like as a society, you just have to say, okay, there are certain values that we uphold. And if you want to take care of yourself, we're not going to sit there and say, okay, if you're 400 pounds, like that's cool. It's not taking care of yourself. So I think things have kind of gone too far, right? The pendulum just keeps swinging too extraordinarily hard in each and every way, and nobody has any common sense anymore. We just need a little dose of common sense. That would go a long way. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like. I will see you back on the show tomorrow. Wait, more to discuss. But before I do let you go, I just want to take a quick look at some of your thoughts. VP. Somebody said to me today, Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard, what do you think? Tulsi, anyone? People are talking about the governor of North Dakota possibly being it. What do you think of that? Doug Burnham, I keep getting his name wrong, so I keep wanting to just say the governor. You know, that tells you, like, Q-score, he doesn't have a very big Q-score. Q-score is something they say in the media to talk about how known a personality is. And you can have a really polarizing person, but with a very, very high Q-score. And that matters. Anyway, so I'm just looking at some of your Chris Christie. you're joking about the health thing. I get it. Anyway, really, really funny commentary. But, you know, other people that have been discussed, Byron, I don't think it's going to happen for Byron Donalds out of Florida, as much as we all love him, only because he's from Florida. And that would mean you've really got to give up. You got to give up those electoral votes. I don't think that anybody would be willing to do such a thing, right? Like that would be kind of crazy. Then, you know, you think about who else is out there. I don't think it's going to be Nikki Haley. I don't think he can pull a Biden, right? What did Biden do? He went and got the lady that was the meanest to him. Broken Prophet says JD Vance. I mean, that's one that I like JD. I like the fact that he comes from a business background. I like that he understands and is sympathetic to a lot of the issues that are facing middle Americans right now. JD really, really gets that. Peace of Mind. I see you like Byron, as well as Elise Stefanik. Peace of Mind is over there. He's subscribing to 76 Research. He's getting lots of love because you guys, you gotta go, you gotta subscribe to the other channel there too. Peace of Mind. I hear you. Elise is awesome. This is the woman, the congresswoman who basically took down the president of Harvard University. So there's a very deep bench out there. I would say that. Very, very deep bench. Douglas is pointing out Tom Cotton. You know, he's actually one of the ones that is being vetted as we speak right now. So it's not impossible. Tom Cotton has been certainly a very, very loyal ally, if you would, of President Trump. So that is somebody. I know you guys love Tulsi. I don't see the Tulsi thing happening. Look, I could be surprised. I don't necessarily see it happening as VP. I think that Cotton might be a little bit more realistic. Also, the governor of North Dakota is realistic. People have talked about Tim Scott. I don't really see that one happening. And Ben Carson. We love Ben. But that's also not necessary. I don't see it happening, only because I think Ben is kind of in a different phase of his career, if you would. And I think he's going to want somebody who's kind of like really, really on it, but doesn't take all the oxygen out of the room, right? Ben definitely wouldn't do that. Dr. Carson. I like Dr. Carson a lot, but I don't think it's going to happen. We'll see. You know, he loves us. Trump loves us. He's like The Apprentice all over again. He's going to keep everybody waiting with bated breath. Great to have you here. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you tell your friends. Make sure you leave a comment, and I'll see you tomorrow.